After the standing ovation, Edgar embraced me. "Do you realise what this means?" he said. "You couldn't help being a nut. It wasn't your fault. You weren't to blame. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't it the best news you've ever heard? Doesn't it make your day? There you were, trying to prove something you thought you believed for a reason, racking your little brain, trying to be a good, sensible supermarket trolley, when the whole thing was completely out of your hands. You spent half your life trying to explain your blind faith in God, when it was just a silly little thing added to your infinity chip, without your knowledge. And what did I, Edgar Malroy, do? I added insult to injury. What have I done? Incessantly, from the moment our paths crossed, I have ridiculed and persecuted you for your silly belief in God. I called you nuts and laughed at you. I took your money just the same way I took all the real nuts' money. Edgar slithered to the floor in a heap. Two of the girls tried to help him up, but he shooed them away. If only I'd known. What a thing to do. What can I say? Oh, the way I ridiculed you. "Oh, look," I'd say, "the theist supermarket trolley. And here comes the trolley that believes in God." How could I? "You've got to forgive me." Edgar was rolling around on the glass floor, banging it with clenched fists. "It's okay, Edgar," I said. "I understand." Immediately Edgar stopped seething around on the floor and looked up at me, surprised, relieved. "Really? You're sure?" He slowly got to his feet and dusted down his cheap suit. We took the lift first up to the top of the building and then all the way down to the main lobby on the ground floor. "It's because of the shape, you see," Edgar explained. I was in too dazed a state to realise what he was talking about. The main lobby was like a battle zone. Dazed employees of Scepticism Inc. were sitting all over the place. Some jumped up when they saw Edgar limping purposely towards them. Others were too exhausted to bother. "Listen, everyone," he shouted, standing in the middle of the room, dusting his cheap suit down again. "We have to search for survivors." I volunteered to come, but Edgar thought it wasn't a good idea. He said people might think I was still nuts. Edgar and about 40 girls, armed with all manner of improvised weapons, left the lobby, and the double doors were hastily shut behind them by employees too injured or exhausted or shocked to go. "Will they be okay?" I asked. "Who knows?" said the girl nearest me. Part 2, Chapter 3. All over the planet, electrical appliances had become homicidal maniacs. Just like that. One moment they were striving selflessly for the continued comfort of mankind, and the next they were threatening the very fabric of society. They did horrible things, things you can hardly imagine. Alarm clocks bashed to death their sleeping owners, stereos played so loudly they ruptured the eardrums of anyone within range, heaters set fire to curtains, dishwashing machines threw their contents like martial arts experts at anything that moves. Electric shavers slit the throats of their users, jacuzzis became death pits, electronically controlled beds became torture racks, TVs exploded in the faces of their viewers, lamps blew their bulbs with such force the effect resembled hand grenade detonations, refrigerators entombed anyone unfortunate enough to get close. Carving knives did some of their finest work, and blenders and food mixers did things too unspeakable to say. Gas ovens exploded, laughing like crazy as they did so. Prams committed infanticide. Spin dryers grabbed people's legs and gnawed them off. Irons worked on exposed flesh, and toothbrushes committed mass murder. It was hell. Particularly in supermarkets. They were death traps, the very worst places to be during the Great Mania. Checkout tills effectively barred the most natural escape routes, while hordes of trolleys, in a terrible frenzy, ran over anyone they found. Pope John had the top half of his cranium removed by a Vatican electronic tin opener. No one could come to his assistance because he had barricaded himself in his study. Just about everyone in the Vatican was said to have heard his screams. When the Swiss guards finally managed to force their way into the study, the Pope was already dead. It was the most horrific way in which a Pope had gone to heaven. The electronic tin opener managed to dispatch 4 middle-class Swiss guards before it was finally destroyed. The tin opener had gone through the guard's armour as if it wasn't there. The 16th Dalai Lama was opening the very first Shop-a-Lot store in Tibet the moment the Great Mania took place. Everyone inside the store perished. Millions of people fled built-up areas on foot, by car or on bicycle. It was the largest movement of people ever witnessed. Authorities declared states of emergency and martial law was imposed just about everywhere. When Edgar and the others returned 2 hours later, they brought with them about 20 survivors. When these survivors saw me, many of them started to scream and a few actually fainted. After resting for about 10 minutes, Edgar and the volunteers went out in search of more survivors. They did this in all 4 times that night, and it was a very brave thing to do. Back in Edgar's office, the ridiculous figure over Canada remained frozen at 3346, 627, 201.